friends, it's Therese and welcome back to my channel. Today's video, Hey friends, it's Therese and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to be discussing the books that I read in the month of November, and it is going to be a wild ride, so buckle up kitties. Let's get into it. So let's start off with the only book that I DNF in the month of October. In November, and that's going to have to be the only audiobook that I also listened to, and that is Hidden Bodies by Caroline Kepnes. This is the sequel to You, following young Joe Goldberg? I almost said Goldine. He's not a Pokemon. Young Joe Goldberg, who decided to fall in love with Guinevere Beck and does so in an obsessive and very stalkerish way. This is the sequel to that, where Joe runs away after being duped by some very pretty girl. Are we surprised that he got duped by some pretty girl? No, but here we are. I ended up DNFing this at about like 30%-ish, I think, I want to say. I had very low expectations going into this book. Unbelievably low. Everyone that I have ever seen talk about this book says that it's very different from the first book and it lacks a lot of the things the first book had. So very low expectations, but I love the show, so I was just like, I needed to fill my need for more content from the show, and it was a bad idea. It was a bad idea, like so bad it's kind of hilarious. Everything that made it super creepy and super stalkerish and just made Joe was gone in this book. He was not present at all. I mean, he's still there, but the creepiness factor by just relating it to You is no longer there. It feels like he is just a creepy stalker dude, guy, who has an obsession with a girl, and there's a lot of sex involved. It wasn't up my alley, and I tried really hard to find something to make it work. I was like, it'll be fine, it will find a silver lining. And then we never did. So DNF'd it, and I will not be trying to pick up this book again in the future. Will not be continuing on with the series. I'll probably reread You sometime in the near future so I can relive how good it was and just forget everything that was Hidden Bodies. Remember, kiddies, if someone tells you that a book is not good, listen to them. Don't think about continuing on or reading it against everyone's wishes just because you are interested and need a fill for your fandom. Just do a normal thing and go on Tumblr. Just go on Tumblr. Just do it. We're actually going to go to the first book that I read this month, and that is Capturing the Devil by Kerri Maniscalco. This is a YA historical fiction novel set in 1800s, I guess now America, following young Audrey Rose as she tries to be a forensic scientist. And this is the fourth and final book to the Stalking Jack the Ripper quartet. I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. Trigger warnings for this one: death, murder. That's about it. But I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars, like I said before. I really enjoyed it. I feel like this feels a lot more like Stalking Jack the Ripper. It's creepy, it's confusing, you get lots of twists and turns tossed around in here, lots of plot twists, and you just don't know exactly who to trust, which is a wonderfully great callback to the original books, because the third book was just, we don't talk about her. No one talks about her. We try to avoid that topic. But this one was really good. The only thing that dinged me was that my new neighbors have very heavy footsteps. They're also very loud snorers. So the thing that dinged me was that there was a huge plot twist in this that pretty much was introduced super easy on, probably the first part of this book, if that, maybe in the first 50 or so pages, and it was all this tension and all this build-up, and then it gets resolved super easily and not even, what is this? What are you doing? But it was resolved super easily and super quickly, and not even by the main character, so there was really no point in including this plot twist, and I would have just liked cuteness and a lack of romantic angst. But overall, it's a really good ending to the series, probably one of the stronger books in the quartet, with the third being at the very, very bottom. But I highly recommend this series if you guys haven't picked it up. It's not very well known for its plot, but the romance is what everyone flocks to. So if you're looking for a good historical romance with some creepy elements in it, always good times, always good times. Moving on to the last book that I read this month. Technically I finished it in December, but it's the 1st of December, so we're rolling it back to November. And that's gonna have to be Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is an adult historical fiction set, I believe, in 1960s, 1980s. 1983. Set in 1983, following these three siblings who are basically now super well-known celebrities, and every year they throw this huge party that goes out of hand every year, and ends up just something everyone wants to talk about. However, this year is seemingly different, not only because of the changes going on in the world, but also the changes going on with each sibling. So we follow each sibling, plus their past and history, and who they're actually related to that made them super, super well known. Trigger warnings for this, / content warnings: infidelity, alcohol abuse leading to alcohol almost poisoning, I guess drowning, alcohol and drug use, and what else? Cheating. That's already been mentioned. I ended up giving this a 3 out of 5 stars. It's not my favorite out of the Taylor Jenkins Reid's books that I have read thus far, but it's not the worst one. I actually don't know what a worst one is, so technically this would be at the bottom. I really enjoyed this book. I felt myself being pulled to continue reading and just keep going with the book. There wasn't a time where I wanted to put it down or I felt bored. I just felt like the second part of the book is broken up into 2 parts. The second half of the book, I feel like there were too many characters. We still do follow the main siblings plus some of their friends, which isn't a bad thing, but then we follow some unnecessary side characters to make it really, like, to really hone it in there that the party is going out of control and getting out of hand. However, while that made sense and I understand why she went with it, I feel like we could have also still enjoyed and included that aspect without having to necessarily include so many characters that we will only ever really see once. Because we lost a lot of that drama and such that I would have preferred to enjoy had they not cut that random tidbit out. Or include that random side character point of view. Moving on to my favorite book of the month, and certainly a surprise for me and definitely will be in my top books of the year, and that's me, Gods of Jade and Shadow by Silvia Moreno Garcia. This is an adult historical fantasy following a young woman who accidentally unlocks a box and opens and reveals a god of death inside of it. I'll throw the trigger warnings up on the screen over here because I'm not entirely sure what all the trigger warnings are, if any. So just to be safe, just... But I'm giving this a 5 out of 5 stars. One of my favorites of the year. This was definitely a slow build of a book. I did not expect it to be super slow buildy. I thought it was going to be a lot more fast-paced and action-packed than that. I ended up texting Kate in the middle of the night, my night, I'm assuming her like day or afternoon, just to be like, hey, so you read this right? Am I missing something that I should have? What is it? Let me know. But it's just a very slow build kind of book. I really enjoyed it. I love seeing this twist on Mexican mythology and seeing Mexico in 1920s, I believe, yeah, during the Jazz Age. And I love seeing these characters traverse throughout this fictional realm and historical context of Mexico and finding out all these things. And I just love the different characters and the different things in between different side characters throughout this novel. It was annoyingly heartbreaking, but I loved it. I don't know how else to put it, but I loved it. I adored it. It was really good. Once I got into it, it was really hard to put down. I think I didn't carry this everywhere, as I often do with books, because I was on vacation. I bought this at Powell's in Portland, but it was a good book. I was heartbroken by the ending, but I really enjoyed the ending. I feel like it was the best ending for this book. Highly recommend it, and if you guys haven't picked up any of Silvia Moreno Garcia's works, I recommend that you do, preferably sometime soon. Moving on to the last 3 books, and books that I have already made a video about, so I will leave that vlog linked down below for y'all if you guys haven't had a chance to see it just quite yet. It's a little long, but I think you'll enjoy it because it's kind of funny. But I'm going on with the lowest rated out of this like pack of 3, and that's gonna have to be A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair. This is an adult retelling of Hades and Persephone set in modern times, where the gods are nothing more than just a name. They have powers, they exist among us, they have reputations, but in reality they're just nothing but a name. This is not my favorite out of the bunch. Definitely, I mentioned it in the vlog, but this is not an erotic book. It's just a book with smut in it, because I feel like sometimes on TikTok they sell it otherwise. I was very disappointed with this book. It is a retelling. It's actually more of a continuation, but I feel like the characters just fell really flat, which I feel like is really hard to do with a Hades and Persephone retelling, because you have an outline from the original myth and so many other retellings before you. There wasn't much of a plot, really. It seems very, like, I don't even remember exactly what happened or what's happening in this book. It was just kind of, it wasn't boring, but it wasn't exciting. And definitely just a 2 out of 5. Even like the sex scenes weren't as engaging. I realize how that sounds. Not, maybe engaging is the wrong word to use. But it wasn't as entertaining. They were subpar sex scenes. We'll just leave it there. They were subpar sex scenes. I don't know how else to explain it without sounding worse than it already does. The next book is another Hades and Persephone retelling, and that is Neon Gods by Katee Robert. This is an adult, again, erotica novel, as a Hades and Persephone retelling as well, following a fictional city, and I'm assuming America, where the 13 gods and goddesses of like Olympus are just now names. They are titles that you hold and hold power over this fictional city. Persephone happens to be caught in the crossfire one day and races down to the lower half of Olympus, I suppose is what it's called, to run into the mysterious and should be dead figure Hades. Definitely the more erotic one out of the 3. Lots of sex scenes in this one. It was enjoyable. Gosh, I like reading these books, but I'm too Catholic to describe it. It was a 4 out of 5 for me. I like the character growth. I like where the plot was going. The biggest thing that dinged me was, like, I didn't even realize it until I started reading some reviews online. And someone had said that Zeus, who is supposed to be the big baddie of this world, who is like the person that we're supposed to be like afraid of, is just there in name. He doesn't really do much. He throws a lot of empty threats around, and then we are expected to fear him or be scared of him in some way, shape, or form, but nothing really comes of it, and I can definitely see that in this book. There was just a lack of, I guess, fear for Zeus, and a lack of action on his bit. He was just a figure for you to like be afraid of and be wary of, and that really dinged it for me, considering there's so much happening in this fictional world and so much going on that I would like to have seen more of, and I would have liked to have seen more of Zeus's kind of like power over this like fictional realm. But I still enjoyed it. Definitely a slightly more like an intermediate beginner to more erotic fiction if you're getting your toes wet. It does have a lot of BDSM and a lot of like public indecency, so if you're like a little shy about that and a little like I will turn red in public if I read this, probably shouldn't try this as your first go. And the last and final book that I read in November is actually the more beginner one. It's Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. This is an adult romantic novel, some smut scenes in it, following young Tate, who moves in to kind of with her brother to finish her residency, and there runs into the mysterious Miles Archer, who happens to be a pilot. Because of like, you know, the sexual tension, they end up having a friends with benefits despite her brother's initial rule of her not dating any one of his friends anymore. I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. Again, I will throw the trigger warnings up here, because I feel like I'm gonna miss something, so just to be safe. But I enjoyed this. It's definitely a good introduction to Colleen Hoover as a writer. I will definitely be picking up more of her works. I have It Ends With Us somewhere on this shelf. I'm really intrigued by it. I like the character growth and just the growth of the plot in general. I had some issues though that while they weren't huge and glaring, they did build up for me, which is why I gave it a 4. The first one being, when we see Miles in the past, he writes in poetry, which you think would be like, oh, Therese, why do you like that? You like poetry? I do. But this is just like broken paragraphs, broken sentences. And the concept of him writing poetry is never brought up in present time, so it just made no sense to have it be such a big presence in the past. On top of that, I feel like the ending was just really rushed. I would have liked them to just start the relationship at the end of this book and leave it at that, rather than have this weird little montage that we get to see through poetry. That I feel like rushed the ending and kind of made Miles' progress of a grieving person and just an angry person at the world very non-existent. So I would have liked that to be otherwise, but other than that, I really enjoyed it, and I will be picking up more of Colleen Hoover's works, as she is kind of like, I'm assuming, seeing a resurgence because of TikTok. So yeah, definitely you can tell this is her more younger work, because there is just a lot of like little bit rookie mistakes here and there. But that is it for the books that I read in the month of November. Not my best reading month in terms of ratings. I have a DNF, a 2, and then lots of 4s, and 1 5, and a 3, I think. Yeah, but not bad considering like November was such a hectic month for me. But if you guys like this video, hit like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Hopefully your week has been going pretty well, and if not, hopefully it gets better. Bye!